Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, let's just dive right into this. If you are totally exhausted by complex diet culture, meticulous calorie tracking, and that endless cycle of guilt associated with what you eat, well, you're in exactly the right place today. We're gonna ditch all that noise. Seriously, no more scanning the barcode on every single almond you eat or trying to do complex macro math in your head while you're just trying to enjoy a nice dinner out. Instead, we're looking at some absolutely fascinating insights from the source material, specifically focusing on two incredibly simple, very mindful tools that can literally transform how you interact with food. No calculators, no restrictive apps, just you, your body, and a little bit of focused awareness. But first, I really want you to ask yourself, why is eating so complicated? Think about it for a second. Feeding ourselves is like the most basic, fundamental biological drive we possess. It is literally hardwired into us from day one. And yet, we struggle with it profoundly. We stress over it, we obsess over it, and we constantly feel like we're just failing at it. So, how did something so deeply natural become a source of daily anxiety and confusion for so many of us? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle lies in this staggering number: $50 billion. That's the size of the modern weight loss industry. It's a massive economic machine that profits directly off making our diets incredibly complex and guilt-driven. Because let's be real here, if eating well was presented as the simple, intuitive, biological process it actually is, that $50 billion industry, it just wouldn't exist. They absolutely rely on us feeling constantly confused. They thrive when we feel broken, because then they can swoop right in and sell us the expensive, overly complicated cure to the exact confusion they helped create in the first place. So let's take a quick second to completely remove the guilt right now. If you struggle with overeating, it is not a lack of willpower. Seriously, scratch that idea. It is actually a fundamental clash between millions of years of evolution and our modern society. See, for most of human history, sugar, salt, and fat were incredibly rare, high-value nutrients. Our ancestors gorged on them whenever they could find them because they lived in a world of extreme scarcity. They literally didn't know when their next meal was coming. Now, fast forward to today's society. Comfortable couches, fully stocked fridges, 24/7 delivery apps right on our phones. You are operating with ancient survival software in an environment of total abundance. Listen to this, because it's so important. You aren't weak. You are just behaving exactly as evolution programmed you to. But here's the catch. Our modern environment actively exploits that ancient programming. Enter what's known as crap food. Yes, literally, calorie-rich and processed food. Our ancient brains are so easily confused by this modern trap. These ultra-processed foods are incredibly cheap to manufacture, super convenient, and wildly profitable. And they're chemically engineered in labs to completely hijack those survival instincts we just talked about. When you eat a ton of highly processed sugar, salt, and fat, your body naturally thinks, oh my gosh, we struck gold, and just demands more. We are practically surrounded by this crop food on every single shelf, making it super difficult for our bodies to figure out when we actually have enough baseline nutrition. To escape this trap, we need a major shift in perspective. As Dr. Sarah Shah beautifully points out in the source material, quote, we should disconnect the idea of being healthy from the idea or goal of losing weight, unquote. That is such a powerful pivot. I really want to emphasize that word, disconnect. You know, when you fixate entirely on a number on the scale, you just get trapped in these short-term diets that wreck your metabolism and tank your self-esteem. But when you shift your goal to simply listening to your body and taking care of your health every day, weight management actually becomes a natural byproduct instead of the stressful, all-consuming obsession. Okay, so let's look at how this mindset shift builds into real practical application. Now that we understand the evolutionary and environmental traps, how do we actually start listening to our bodies? We're going to look at two specific granular tools to help you break the diet habit for good. And the first one is the hunger scale. This is a wonderfully direct way to start tuning into your actual physical needs rather than just eating out of impulse or stress or just plain old habit. Here's exactly how it works. It's a really simple, subjective 1 to 10 scale. A 1 means you're dizzy, weak, like absolutely starving. A 5 is totally neutral. You aren't really hungry, but you aren't full either. And a 10 is that painful post-Thanksgiving dinner feeling where you are just overfull, uncomfortable, and super lethargic. Now, think about your own daily routine. How often do you realize you're comfortably sitting at a 7, completely satisfied, but you eat anyway simply because the clock on the wall says it's noon? By pausing and assessing your hunger on this simple scale before you take a bite, you really ground yourself in physical reality. You're forcing your brain to check in with your stomach. Like, are you at a 2 and genuinely need fuel? Or are you actually at a 5 and just reaching for a snack out of pure routine? So, once we know how to check in and identify exactly when we're truly hungry enough to start eating, we need a tool that tells us when to stop. And that brings us perfectly to tool 2, which beautifully and elegantly answers the question of exactly when we should put our forks down for the night. It's called Hara Hachi Bunmi. This is a traditional Japanese practice and philosophy that simply instructs you to stop eating when you are exactly 80% full. Just think about how profound that is compared to how most of us were raised. In so many cultures, we are conditioned right from childhood to be charter members of the Clean Plate Club, right? We were told we couldn't leave the table until every last bite was gone, totally regardless of how our bodies actually felt. Breaking that childhood conditioning takes some active mindfulness. Hara Hachi Bunmi champions that mindful bodily awareness over ingrained cultural habit. It requires you to actively pay attention while you eat, so you can catch that sweet spot of being satisfied right before you cross the line into being stuffed. The absolute crucial point here is this 80% rule. It's a completely free, dead simple alternative to the exhausting process of tracking every single calorie or weighing your food on a tiny kitchen scale. You don't need a monthly app subscription, and you certainly don't need an advanced math degree to figure it out. You just need to listen. Stopping at 80% full means you walk away from the table feeling energized and light rather than feeling heavy, bloated, and desperately needing a nap. And, when we contrast physical hunger with emotional hunger, something really fascinating emerges. Physical hunger is your body's literal biological need for fuel. But using these mindful tools reveals just how often we experience emotional hunger instead. We eat because we're sad, or we're just painfully bored. And here's a huge trap. Sometimes what we firmly believe is hunger is actually just thirst. A glass of water is often what our body is really begging for. Other times, it's just profound fatigue masquerading as an appetite. When we pause to rate our hunger, we give ourselves that necessary space to say, wait a second, I'm not actually physically hungry right now. I'm just super stressed out about work. Remember, food cannot satisfy an emotion. And here is a truth that goes against absolutely everything the modern snack food industry desperately wants you to believe. Being slightly hungry is not fatal. It's really not. In fact, the source material notes a highly surprising insight. Avoiding the feeling of being constantly stuffed and allowing yourself to experience occasional, slight hunger actually increases your daily alertness. It boosts your motivation to get things done. Think about it. When you aren't using all your body's energy to constantly digest heavily processed meals, you actually feel more vibrant, more focused, and just a lot more alive. We've covered some incredibly empowering concepts in the explainer today. By understanding the evolutionary mismatch of our environment, recognizing the trap of highly processed crap foods, and utilizing simple tools like the 1 to 10 hunger scale and the 80% rule of Hara Hachi Bunmi, you can completely reclaim your relationship with food. So I want to leave you with a direct challenge. Next time you find yourself wandering into the kitchen and opening the fridge, just take 3 seconds to pause. Ask yourself, what is my number on the 1 to 10 scale right now? Your honest answer might just change your entire day. Thanks for joining me, and I really hope this empowers you to start listening to what your body is truly asking for.